Hi guys, what is up? What's going on? I'm currently home for Thanksgiving, which is why I am in a very different location, not in my cinder block prison of a dorm room. So about 5 months ago, I decided that my bookshelf needed some room. So in order to clear out space on my bookshelf, I thought, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I am going to read all of the books that I bought ages ago. I'm talking years ago, middle school, freshman year, anything sort of in that range. I'm just going to read them so that I can decide whether or not I'm going to keep them or get rid of them. And that was my plan. And that's exactly what I started to do. Maybe about 20 books. So now I'm here to, I don't know, review books that were popular in 2014, I guess. So the first book that I read on this adventure was One Man Guy by Michael Barkiva. This book was about a kid in freshman year who was like pretty sure he was straight, but then he met a guy. The book is called One Man Guy, so I guess you can kind of see where that's going. I was not the target audience for that book. I bought that book so long ago. I really don't even know what else to say about it other than I'm not the target audience for that book. And it was honestly weirdly homophobic. I gave it 2.5 stars. Oh my god, I just ripped my earring out. I cannot catch a break right now, guys. I honestly can't. One Man Guy, not for me. I'm not the target audience. 2.5 stars. Let's move on. The next book I read was this classic, Go Ask Alice by Anonymous. And the whole premise of this book is it's supposed to be the real diary of a young girl who's addicted to drugs. But it is so obviously fake. So obviously fake. And then I think the other dead fucking giveaway is that it's the first in a series of books about teenagers being traumatized, and they're all supposed to be found diaries, and who was finding that many diaries? And it was also stupid. 2 stars. And also it was literally so tiny and small. I think it took me 4 hours to read, if even that. And I'm honestly mad I wasted my time reading it. But now I do want to mention a book that I DNF'd, and that I still have. I DNF'd it, but I kept it, and I think you'll see why as soon as I fucking dig it out. Oh my god. This is the book. It took me forever to find the title of it, and as soon as I read the title, I honestly should have known that I was not going to read this. I found this in Newbury Comics, which is a local record store where I am from, and I was so intrigued by it because I mean, this is intriguing. You see this and you're like, what do we have here? And then when I sat down to read it, I was like, these are just sentences. They are just sentences. So then I went on Goodreads and I tried to look it up. The book is Manifesto by Anonymous. And I was reading it, and all of the reviews were either 1 star, this was stupid, or 5 star, I love this. And so many of the 5-star reviews were comparing it to Catcher in the Rye. So I was like, okay, red flag. I didn't care about tourist attractions. I didn't want to see what other people saw. Stupid. But I'm keeping it because, I mean, it's just kind of a cool little thing, you know? As you can imagine, at this point, I'm a little discouraged. You know, we had a 2.5 star, a 2 star, a DNF. I'm like, my taste in middle school was fucking horrible bonkers. This is a bad idea. And then I pick up my next book, and oh, wow, besties. The Strange Fascinations of Noah Hypnotic by David Arnold. This book is absolutely fantastic. I gave it 5 stars. It is just so good. I loved it. And here's the deal. I can understand why people would hate this book. I love it. First of all, main character's name is Noah. I love any book where the main character is named Noah. I just do. That's just like sort of like a general rule for me. This Noah, I love Noah Sherney from The Raven Cycle, and I love Noah Sweetwine from I'll Give You the Sun. So any Noah, I'm just instantly on board. Basically what happens is Noah is a senior in high school. He doesn't really know what he wants to do with his life. And he wakes up one day and a bunch of like really tiny things have changed in his life. Like it says on the back, his mother has a scar on her face that wasn't there before. And his best friend, who was a lifelong DC Comics disciple, now rotates in the Marvel Universe. But there are a couple things in Noah's life that hasn't changed, and those are his strange fascinations. He has about 5 things in his life that he's fixated on. So then when he wakes up and he's like, oh my god, like everything has changed and I feel like I'm going crazy. The only thing is that haven't changed are his strange fascinations. So he's like, I'm literally just gonna find like everything I wanted to know about these, like, ever. And also I really like the way it's written because the chapters are short and it's written in like parts. See, like part 4, and the chapters are really, really short too. See, 45, 46, 47 is on this page. My copy has some water damage because I was reading this in the pool. But yeah, this book really is fantastic. Like, it's so good. I highly recommend it. Next was another book that has water damage because I was reading it in a pool. Georgia Peaches and Other Forbidden Fruit by J. Robin Brown. Now, when I was in middle school, this book got hyped up a lot on like Twitter and Tumblr and stuff like that. And I sort of understand why there would be a lot of people who like it. Just the only thing is, religion has like a really heavy role in this book, and I don't mesh well with that. So essentially this book is about a daughter of a family whose name is Jo. She's a lesbian. She's been out forever, but then her family moves, and her dad, who is a priest, is basically like, can you maybe just like not be gay for your last year of high school when we move to this new town? And she's like, yeah, fine, whatever. But then she meets a girl who she falls in love with, and she's like, oh my god, I told my dad I would not be gay. I thought it was fine. I gave it 3 stars. I didn't love it. It's just not really for me. And also the writing is a little elementary. But I would have loved this in 8th grade. When if I had read this when I bought it, I would have loved it. So the next book I read because it was presented to me as a reading option in my freshman year of English. And I actually decided to read Stalking Jack the Ripper instead. But I thought that this book sounded interesting, so I went out and bought it, and then I read it. And the book is With Malice by Eileen Cook. With Malice is a YA thriller. It's about a girl, I can't remember her name, but she like wakes up, she's in the hospital, she's been in a horrific accident. Imagine you're in the hospital, you wake up, like both your legs are broken. It's like a whole ordeal. Then you wake up and there's like a cop, and you're like, what the hell? Then your parents come in and they're like, oh, sweetie, they think you killed your best friend while you were in Italy. Imagine? No, thank you. I am going back to sleep. It sounds like a good premise, but I just think it was maybe too long, and it was kind of boring, and it had a weird ending, but it was also vaguely Law and Order like a little bit, because they had like lawyers and like press people and like stuff like that. So I kind of like that aspect of it because I love Law and Order, but I don't know. I think it was kind of too long, and I didn't like the way it ended. 2.5 stars. The next book I read, I am not joking. I bought this book at a Scholastic book fair. The book is called Conjured by Sarah Beth Durst. This is sort of the opposite of Georgia Peaches, because if I had read this when I first bought it, I would not have liked it. Me as a 10-year-old would have had zero grasp of what was happening, because the book is weirdly complex. Like, there's like a murder aspect with like a serial killer. There's kids with superpowers. There's like a weird fantasy aspect with like a traveling circus. The main character of the book essentially is like in witness protection because she's the only witness to a serial killer and his murders. And so she's in witness protection. She sort of has these like episodes, I guess, where she blacks out and then she can't remember anything. I don't know why my phone just stopped recording. That was not fucking cool. So there was a romance in this book that I thought was freaking adorable. I loved the love interest. He was so cute. I think his name is Zach, and then I think the main character's name was Evie, and they were absolutely adorable together. Evie also has magic because the serial killer was like hunting people with magic. Look, did it make sense? No. Did I enjoy it? Yeah. So I gave it 3.75 stars. Very enjoyable. Next book is Tell Me Again How a Crush Should Feel by Sarah Farazan. I remember exactly why I bought this book. I looked up books with lesbians and this was a book that came up, and so I bought it. It's about a girl named Layla, and she goes to this really fancy like boarding school, and then she like falls in love with a girl there, but she's like not out. Her family's Iranian, and it's like a whole thing. You know what? This was not for me. I gave it 3 stars, but it is written kind of young, and also the main character of this book, has a lot of internalized lesbophobia, which I'm just not really into reading about anymore. So yeah, I honestly don't have much to say about this one. It is in my donate pile. I just haven't taken it to the little free library yet. At this point, I also do want to mention that I tried to read Will Grayson by John Green, and DNF'd it after 20 pages. What the hell? I don't even have anything to say about that. I just wanted to mention that. The next book was another good one. I really liked this one. And this shouldn't surprise me because the book that I read this time around is At the Edge of the Universe by Sean David Hutchinson. But I also read We Are the Ants by Sean David Hutchinson, and I really liked that book. So it shouldn't surprise me how much I like this, but I really, really did like this. The only reason I didn't give this book 5 stars was the same reason I didn't give We Are the Ants 5 stars, which is because Sean David Hutchinson has a super like casual style of writing where when important things are happening, you can't tell. Like there's no build up. You know what I mean? There's no like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, you know? Like it's just sort of very sudden. And that's not something I particularly enjoy. I like to have a lot of like build up and tension and suspense for like these big moments. But the characters are amazing. The book is funny. It's sci-fi. It's existentialism. And maybe I should tell you what it is about. Our main character in this book, his name is Ozzy, and his best friend and boyfriend, Tommy, disappeared off the face of the earth. No one remembers him. No one knows who he's talking about. He's like the only person who knows who he is, right? So he basically spends all of his time looking for Tommy, thinking about Tommy, trying to figure out what Tommy is. It's like he's obsessed with Tommy because he thought that him and Tommy were like gonna get married and like be together forever. There's an element in this book where the universe is physically shrinking, and so when it shrinks, the things that were outside of it like disappear from people's memory. So by the end of this book, like people don't know what the fuck the moon is, you know? There's like this extreme sense of existentialism that you have when reading it, but it really is fantastic. And there is a romance in this book. Not my favorite part. I really more enjoyed like the plot, I guess, and like the questions posed by the book. Super good. And I also do recommend We Are the Ants. They're both phenomenal books. Those are the only Sean David Hutchinson I've read, but I definitely want to read more. Her Royal Highness by Rachel Hawkins. This book is about a teenager. She sort of breaks up with her like situationship. So she goes, you know what I'm gonna do? Go to school in Scotland. So she applies to a boarding school in Scotland, gets in, goes. She ends up rooming with like a literal princess, but they're enemies. Like, they don't like each other. They hate each other. She's like mean and popular, and yeah, guess what? They fall in love. That's what the book is. I did like it. I gave it 3.75 stars. Really not bad. Like, not bad. But, you know, this is definitely something I would have preferred when I was younger. And I do think that the pacing at the end is really strange. And I think that the relationship was a little bit underdeveloped. But I did enjoy it. I'm not mad that I read it. Next book I read was a nonfiction book. I'm not big on nonfiction. I mean, I don't mind memoirs, but this like totally is not anything that I would read. But I did read it because I'm like so interested in the subject matter of the book that I was like, all right, I am literally going to sit here and read this entire nonfiction book. And the book is Rockonomics by Alan B. Kruger. And it is a look at the economy of the United States through the lens of the economy of the music industry and how you can sort of apply that small scale economic model onto the model of the country. That's what it says on the cover. I don't really think it was about that. I think it was honestly just more about money in the music industry. But that is like my area of focus. I am majoring in arts and entertainment management. I want to run a record label. I hate Spotify because they don't pay people enough money. I will go on a rant about this all day. I'm actually using Rockonomics as a source in my final paper for my English class this year because I am writing about compensation in the music industry. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars because it's nonfiction. Like, I don't really know how to rate nonfiction. So 4 stars was just kind of my like, yeah, I like this book a lot. But I did like it a lot. It's actually at my dorm right now because I am using it in that paper, but I really tabbed the hell out of it. I'll post a picture of what the, I don't know what this is called. The inside spine. How about that? Of what that looks like, because I did tab the hell out of it. And I also wrote in it, and it was honestly so much fun to read. Like, I so enjoyed reading it, and I'm so glad I did. Autoboyography by Christina Lauren. This was so good. I gave it 4.5 stars. And our main character in this book is named Tanner. Stupid name. But Tanner is a senior in high school, and he essentially takes this class where the whole goal of the class is that you write a novel by the end of the class. And he has no idea what to write about. So he is like, just like, oh, what am I going to write about? And then this TA who also took this class in high school, wrote a novel that ended up selling to like be published, comes in, and he's like, I'm going to be like your student teacher in this class. And Tanner is like, oh, that's really cool. Actually, I am going to fall in love with you. I am going to do that. What's the catch? This takes place in freaking Provo, Utah. Tanner's not Mormon, but the other guy whose name's Sebastian is super Mormon. So they're in love, but Sebastian has like a shit ton of internalized homophobia, obviously. So he's like, we can't be together. And then he's like, we can't tell my parents. And Tanner's just like, but I'm in love with you. It's one of those, you know exactly what I'm talking about. My notes say emotional and well-developed. This is really good. This is one that I do recommend. What is next? Oh my god. This book made me a fucking emotional wreck. My best friend, shout out Bray, I love you, gave me this book as a present. I can't remember if it was for Christmas or my birthday or anything like that. Forever ago. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, cool. And then I didn't read it until I finally read it when I was doing this. This shit is so fucking sad. Oh my god. This book is called All We Can Do Is Wait. It's by Richard Lawson. This book is told from, I want to say like 4 or 5, I think it might be 5 different points of view. They're all like teenagers who meet in the waiting room of this hospital as they're waiting for news about their loved ones because a bridge in Boston collapsed. And they're just waiting to see if their like parents are alive, or like if their siblings are alive, or if their friends are alive. Like one of them, there's a pair of siblings in here who are waiting for their parents. There's a kid in here who's waiting for his girlfriend. Also, there is a girl in here, a character in here named Morgan. So, the night that I finished it like 1:30 in the morning because I was like, I have to finish reading this. Like, I cannot keep reading this. Like, if I don't finish it tonight, it's going to be a problem because I am literally about to have a breakdown. This was so good. I gave it 4 stars. Really amazing. I do recommend this. I never have heard of, like the only reason I know this book exists is because my best friend got it for me. So, very good. I recommend it. The Young Elites by Marie Lu. I literally bought this after I finished the Legend series, which I finished in middle school. It's usually recommended as one of those books that's from like the villain's point of view. I don't think it's worth it if that's what you're looking for. She's not really a villain in this book yet. This is a trilogy. And I also did read the other 2, which are The Road Society and The Midnight Star. Obviously, they're both by Marie Lu. They're like teenagers with powers. You know the drill. But our main character, Adelina, is taken in by this group called the Young Elites and like trained. And they like go on missions and shit. She essentially gets this idea in her head that they betrayed her. And so in The Road Society and The Midnight Star, she's like the villain. Look, I have things to say about these books. First of all, this book, I did like it. I gave it 3.5 stars. The only problem I had with this book was that it really felt like there was like a wall between me and the characters. Like I knew Adelina, but I didn't know anyone else, which I guess was kind of like the point now that I'm thinking about it, because she's the villain and she never trusted them. But I didn't like that because I liked all the other characters and I wanted to know more about them. And then these books both got 3 stars each. But this was like, this is the last one. The ending was fucking strange. These 2 books, none of the choices that were made any sense. So next I tried to read this. This is Dorothy Must Die by Danielle Page. It was interesting for like 100 pages. And then it got stupid and repetitive and I DNF'd it. I couldn't imagine 4 books of this. Essentially, it's like The Wizard of Oz, but Dorothy's evil. Also, this book begins with her getting into a fight with a pregnant girl. The Wave by Todd Strasser. This book is freaking tiny. I literally read it in like 2 nights. The reason I have this is because I saw it talked about in a Tumblr post. This book is based on like a real incident that took place in a high school. And essentially the teacher is trying to make the kids like understand how so many people got indoctrinated into like Hitler's beliefs. Essentially he like ropes the entire high school into like being little Nazis on accident. I thought this was going to be really dramatic and it wasn't. It reads really young. Like I feel like I would have been handed this in like 5th grade, and like it reminds me of Number the Stars by Lois Lowry. Like that sort of book where it's like a classic for like 5th graders. And you're like trying to ease them into learning about the Holocaust. Because it's like, let's expose these children to the atrocities of the world. But how do we do it? I was looking for more drama. And it did not have as much drama as I wanted. So I gave it 3 stars. But also, holy fuck, let's talk about trauma. These kids fucking absolutely... Damn. I hope they got therapy. This is kind of a funny story by Ned Vizzini. First of all, I like this book because it's floppy as hell. Like, I wish you guys could feel the way this book is weighted. It's like so nice. It's like heavy and floppy. Just absolutely wonderful. The way it's printed, the text is really big. I read like 100 pages a day of this because it was so easy to just you know. I bought this because I wanted to see the movie because Zoe Kravitz was in it and she was in the Divergent movie. Our main character is named Craig. He's from New York and he basically decides one day like, oh, I am going to kill myself. And then he like calls the suicide hotline and they're like, you need to go to the hospital if you're going to kill yourself. He's like, okay, like I'll go to the hospital then. So he goes to the hospital and obviously he gets committed and then he just spends, I want to say like a week in the like mental ward of the hospital, but like the adolescent unit is like under construction, so the adolescents and the adults are like together. I don't know, I really enjoyed it. I vibed with it. Funny and interesting. Those are my notes. Also absolutely devastated to find out the author killed himself. I was like reading his like about thing and I was like, Hello? That was the second time this happened to me during this. You know who else killed himself? The author of Rockonomics. Alan. Don't kill yourself. Your theories on the music industry are so sexy. Now we get to what I'm currently reading. And look, I just wanted to film this while I was home and I had like all the books I could hold in my hand. I'm probably going to finish this tomorrow. This is The Book Thief by Marcus Zuzak. This is a real classic. Like, we all know about this. It's absolutely beautiful. I really honestly can't say enough positive things about this. My grandma got this for me for Christmas one year. I mean, it's just phenomenal. Heartbreaking and so beautifully written. Just absolutely amazing. I know that I'm gonna like really be a mess when I finish this. I know something terrible is gonna happen to the dad, and I know something terrible is gonna happen to Max, and I know something terrible is gonna happen to Rudy, and I'm just upset about it in advance. I think this is either gonna be like a 4.5 or 5-star read for me. Depends on if I cry. Those are the books I read that I bought ages ago, and I can't wait to be done with this so I can go back to reading like books that I bought recently, because I've really just been buying books. Like, I have no self-control. I bought so many books even just while I was home for like 4 days. I was like, I have to go to every Barnes & Noble in the state of Rhode Island, which is all two of them. Thank you for listening to me talk about books. It really means a lot to me that you guys watch these videos, because I love to talk about books, but I don't want to annoy people. So when you're here voluntarily, unless you're my friend and I force you to be here. Thank you so much for joining me in my book nook at home. I love you. Thank you for being here. I will see you next time. Goodbye. The title's called One Man Guide. Well, I did not know Christina Lauren were two people. They are two women named Christina and Lauren, and they put their names together, and now they're Christina Lauren, and they write books.